All right, Rangers, we've got transfer drama, bold claims, and Kris Boyd throwing absolute bombs at Philippe Clement. Rangers are chasing defenders like it's a fire sale. But is the Swedish lad we're eyeing really the answer? And what about the young midfield dynamo who Clement's apparently in love with? Oh, and James Sands, remember him? He's out here comparing himself to Rodri, and I can't wait to hear what you think about that. But the big one, Kris Boyd has had it with Clement. Calling time on the Belgians' reign after the Dundee debacle. Is it time to pull the trigger? Or should the board stick by their man? Stick with me to the end. There's plenty to unpack, and I want to hear what you think about the every twist and turn. Let's get into it. So, Rangers are sniffing around Burnley's Hjalmar Ekdal to patch up our leaky defense, eh? Patrick Stewart's talking like a man on a mission, juggling this injury crisis while trying not to bloat the squad with short-term signings. The poor lad's been thrown into the deep end, hasn't he? First transfer window as CEO, and he's already up to his neck in it. Classic Rangers. Now, Ekdal. The Swedish lad has barely stretched his legs at Burnley, just one appearance this season, and he's been nursing a hamstring. Not exactly the iron wall we're dreaming of, is he? But company reckons he's intelligent and mobile, and for a short-term loan, he could be the right plug to stop the gap while our lads recover. 7 caps for Sweden doesn't hurt his CV either. Trouble is, it's not just us eyeing him up. We've got QPR, Middlesbrough, Stoke, and a wee Italian contingent, Empoli, Sampdoria, and Brescia, all fancying a piece. Feels like a bad episode of Transfer Wars. Burnley shelled out a bit over £2 million for him last year, but with only 19 appearances in 2 years, you'd think they'd be happy to let him go. Stewart's cautious, though. Doesn't want to overspend or overcrowd when Balogun and Sutar eventually crawl out of the physio room. Fair enough, but it's a tightrope act. We've got to shore up that backline pronto if we're to keep any title dreams alive. Letting in goals left and right won't cut it, especially when the Celtic mob are sitting smug at the top. Here's one for you. Should Rangers be taking a gamble on an injury-prone player like Ekdal, or are we better off sticking with what we've got and risking a defensive shambles? So, it looks like Rangers are making moves for Dundee's Lyle Cameron, with Philippe Clement supposedly loving what he sees in the lad. A free transfer at the end of the season, that's right up our alley. Good value, low risk, but let's face it, after failing to smash Dundee recently, poaching their best player feels a bit cheeky, doesn't it? Still, we've always been about nicking talent from the league and making them shine at Rangers. Cameron's got the numbers to back it up. 8 goals and 7 assists in 27 appearances. Not bad for someone playing at Dundee. The fact he's a versatile midfielder who can pop up in attacking, defensive, or even left midfield roles makes him all the more tempting. Sounds like a wee Swiss Army knife for the squad, which is exactly what Clement needs to add depth and options. Connor Barron's already shown how a young lad from another Scottish club can come in and make an impact. Maybe Cameron could follow in his footsteps, but there's always that question of whether a player like him can handle the leap to Rangers, the pressure, the expectations, and of course, the unforgiving fan base. The bigger issue, though, is how we're performing against the so-called weaker sides. Smashing Celtic 3-0 was grand, but draws against teams like Dundee, that's the kind of form that'll have folk sharpening their pitchforks. Even Clement's been backed by Patrick Stewart, which is reassuring, but results need to come, and fast. So here's one to stir the pot. Should Rangers be focusing on signing up-and-coming players from smaller clubs, or is it time to splash the cash on proven quality to finally get the better of Celtic? James Sands. The lad came in with big expectations, didn't he? Supposed to be the calm, versatile head we needed in midfield and defense, but his time at Rangers felt more like a square peg in a round hole. To be fair, getting chucked into centre-back when you're naturally a midfielder isn't exactly the dream scenario. Still, £4.5 million for a permanent move? That always seemed a stretch, and it's no shock Rangers passed. He's now at St. Pauli, talking about how unrealistic it was to expect him to thrive at Ibrox. Fair enough, adapting to our game, the demands of the Rangers shirt, and playing in Europe is no picnic, especially for a young lad fresh out of the MLS. But honestly, the way games passed him by wasn't just about position. It's about presence, and let's face it, he didn't have enough of that in a Rangers jersey, and now comparing himself to Rodri? Come on, mate. Rodri's a Rolls Royce of a player. Sands was more of a second-hand motor that couldn't quite get out of first gear at Rangers. Sure, aiming high is admirable, but there's a massive gulf between where he is now and the Spanish maestro who just won the Ballon d'Or. Maybe the lad will find his feet in the Bundesliga. It's a league that suits players who like a bit of space and structure. But let's not pretend his time at Rangers was anything other than forgettable. Here's a spicy one for you. Was Sands just a victim of being misused at Rangers? Or was he never cut out to play for a club with the pressure and expectations of Rangers in the first place? Kris Boyd's taken the gloves off, hasn't he? And you can't really blame him. 15 points behind Celtic, dropping points to Dundee, with our title hopes already in tatters. It's the sort of nightmare that would make even the most optimistic Rangers fan want to chuck the telly out the window. Boyd's digging into Clement for praising Clinton Enciala's debut and making excuses about injuries. Fair enough. We're missing some key players like Tavernier and Butland, but come on, Dundee, we're missing 10. It's hard to stomach Clement talking about being creative with subs when you've got players like Rabbi Matondo, Ross McCausland, and a £5 million striker in Danilo on the bench. The talent's there, it's the results that aren't. And let's not pretend this is some new issue. The away record is scandalous. 3 wins from 11 in the league. Clubs like Motherwell, St Mirren, Hibs, and Dundee should be the bread and butter for Rangers. It's not disrespectful to say that, it's just the standard we've always held ourselves to. But under Clement, it feels like that standard's slipping, and fans aren't daft. They can see it. Boyd's ready to bin Clement now, and you have to wonder if he's got a point. Do you limp along until the summer, hoping for a Europa League run or a Scottish Cup to paper over the cracks? Or do you cut ties now and try to salvage some pride? One thing's for sure, the excuses are wearing thinner than a supermarket own brand pie crust. So here's the big one for you. Has Clement's time run out, or should Rangers stick by him and risk further alienating a fan base that's already at the end of its tether? If you haven't seen yesterday's video yet, you're missing out. Explosive news about Rangers that'll leave every fan stunned. Go check it out now.